Hi, Melanie Muenchinger here, illustrator for Gina K Designs. Today I have another project that I'm going to be doing with Fabulous Frame using that faux stitching technique that I did in last week's video. But after I did that, I got to thinking, and sometimes some of my best ideas really come from a what would happen if moment. And so I was looking at it and I noticed what would happen if I turned the marker on a diagonal instead of going straight. How would that look? Well, it actually produces a very different look, and I hope that you can see this. You'll be able to see this better in real life on your own cards. When you're doing it perpendicular or straight against the border, you're going to have smaller, tighter stitches that are going to be exactly opposite of the row next to it. But when you're on the diagonal, you're actually going to produce a longer stitch. They're going to be staggered, and if you can see in here, you actually have a little bit thicker in the middle and thinner on the ends, and it looks so much like when you are pulling embroidery floss up through a piece of fabric. It gets thicker and then gets smaller as you go down through the fabric. So I'm really excited about this possibility. It's just another way to change up the look of that frame when you want to do a faux stitch. I'm also going to do some omission today to show you how you can use these outer borders and then take out the belly band and the oval when you want something different. So this is the card that we're going to be making today. I think I'm going to turn it though just to show you how this rule of thirds works even when you're using the omission. Going to also be using the magnolia that is in my Stately Flowers 3 set. Here is the image sheet. So this is a very large stamp. It's about 3.5 inches across, and that's how I chose which one I was going to use for today's card because it's going to fill in the space really nicely, and it's just one I haven't shown in a video. This is a beautiful flower. It's one of my favorites on the line. Going to be using the dark chocolate Gina K ink for stamping the flower and the sentiment. Going to be using the Tim Holtz Distress Marker and Vintage Photo. This one looks really nice with the Gina K Dark Chocolate. Just a couple Spectrum Noir markers to color this in today. I've got the IG2, the EB3, and the CG1. Need some large blocks for this fabulous frame from the Fabulous Frame set, and then smaller blocks for the flower and sentiment. I have some of the Gina K Pure Luxury Little Boy Blue cardstock. It's just a real pretty dusty blue. And then we've got some white cardstock for the sentiment, and then a Petite Spellbinders die for cutting that out. Finally, I have got just some foam squares and then some pearls to do the accents. Okay, so we're going to start with a clean stamp. Let me move this out of the way to give us a little bit more room. And you're going to use the brush tip of the marker. So I'm going to turn it. I kind of like to have my stamp on the diagonal so that I can hold my hand straight. I find it's kind of awkward to try to go like this, okay? So put your stamp on the diagonal, and that way as you're holding it straight when you go up the line, you're not going to go off on the angle of your marker. That's going to stay the same, okay? So I'm going to start here on the end. And pardon me for my sniffles today. I have a little bit of a cold, but I didn't want to not do my video. And then we're going to put that, I've got it pointing towards my belly button there, okay? So that'll keep it at a nice right angle and keep all of your stitches going the same way. And I'm going to stop at the belly band and go past it. Same angle. We're going to do this end. So omitting that middle section is really going to save a lot of time. And we're also going to color it in this time. So if you do it tone on tone, you can get away with coloring it and it doesn't look messy like you're going outside of those borders, since they're not as clearly defined with the stitch than they would be with the solid line. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and huff on this. And that's just going to reactivate the ink. Here is my A2 size card, and I'm going to unfold it so that I can stamp it. And I actually just got my finger on the end there. Hopefully that won't mess up my stitch too much. So just carefully place it centered over the card front. And the sample I showed you before, I went ahead and trimmed it down just a 1/16 of an inch off of each side and layered it onto white, but I wanted to make a single layer card here. Okay, so now you've got a stitch border going all the way around, and then you can fill this in by creating a border with some flowers. So again, I chose the magnolia. I picked up a couple different stamps and I placed them in that space just to see what I thought would look nice. This is our last set in the line that is in rubber, but it's really easy to use because it is die cut. So I'm just going to lay that over it and lift it off. And then I will fold this because I don't want the flower going over the back, but I'm just going to hold it down so it doesn't pop up on me. So lay it on here in between those borders, press, and pull away. Oh gosh, I just love how that looks. And so you can see this isn't centered, it's a third of the way through the card. So again, this is a layout that you can use either landscape or portrait style in any direction. So for my sample card, I had it going this way, but I'm going to have it going landscape style for this. All right, so let's go ahead and add some color to this, and I'm gonna unfold it again just so that it's not popping up when I'm coloring it. So I really like to do tone on tone flowers, and so I'm just going to use this IG2. So just grab a light gray or a light blue marker, and this is really going to fade in a lot as it dries. So you can kind of experiment with what marker you want to use. Maybe start with a lighter one. The IG1 I tried at first, and it would just disappear right into the cardstock after about 30 seconds. Now I'm putting this inside those leaves. If you cup your hands, you can see that it's darkest in the middle and under the folds, and then it gets lighter on the outside. So you can practice with your hands or different things when you're trying to figure out where the shading goes. I didn't add a lot of contour lines or shading lines on this image just because magnolias have just such beautiful white porcelain petals. They don't have all those little veins that other flowers do, so I really didn't want those ridges on here. Okay, so just a little bit, and you can see how it's blending in and looking like a watercolor on this top flower. So just don't worry about it too much. Since tone on tone, it's not really going to matter, but it's just making your flower look a lot more dimensional than if you did not add the color. And I just think this it kind of looks like watered silk. I just love this really light blue on this dusty blue paper. Okay, then we're going to use this same one to do shadows. So I'm just going to fill in the underneath and just keep it consistent which side you have them on. So you'll want to choose which way you want your card oriented before you start adding the shadows so that that will make sense. That is, you don't want to turn it and then have your shadows on the top. Okay. All right, so that's all I'm going to do with the blue. And now we'll do a little bit of the green in the center. And so I'm just going to dot some of this on at the bottom. And it's so interesting what happens to different colors when you put them on colored cardstock. So you can kind of test it out on a little scrap first, but it blends in a lot. And depending on what color you use, obviously yellow is going to turn very green. So that's why I just started with green, and the color actually looks very true on this paper. Okay, now let's go ahead and do the leaves. So I'm just going to fill in the majority of this leaf, but then leave a little bit of the lightest part where there is no shading open, as if you're getting a highlight there. And again, I keep the color real simple on this card. And then you can go back when you're done and add the same green again, and it will get darker. So you only need one green for this, but if you want to use a darker one, just so that there's a little bit more contrast, by all means do. Okay. So then I would just go back And you see how that's much darker, just adding that top coat, that second layer of green. Oh, and this one I forgot. Okay, and then we're going to add just the one brown to that woody stem. And that was another reason I picked this, because it would look really nice with the stitching. Really bring out that brown accent. And finally, you can leave it like that, but I thought that this is going to really look like it's an embossed panel or raised, a different layer, just to put that light blue right there in between those stitches. So you just hold your marker really steady. Just carefully go in there. And you can choose not to fill that in the middle, but I went ahead and did it. And then I'm going to turn it. And this is going to fade in, so you see it's already fading, but you can see a difference. So it's almost like it's embossed. Easy, okay? And I'm going to put this greeting, I'm going to show you, I already made a tag just to save a little time. But again, this is how I have it on the sample, but you could layer that in the middle of the flowers, put it right here, down below. There's so many choices, so I'm going to put it right here. But I'll show you, if you don't have the extra cardstock or a die cutting machine, you could just stamp that right on there, and then you have a beautiful single layer card. But I just wanted to add some dimension here with the tag. So I'm going to put the foam squares on, and I'm just going to place it right over that. Right there. And your card is complete. And this is a little bit more classic to have the pearls going at either end of the tag. On this one, I put them in the middle of the O, and I just like to accent the little dots of I's or O's or maybe a period at the end of the sentiment with my pearls and rhinestones. I hope you enjoyed this new faux stitch look. Please come and visit my blog, Hands, Head, and Heart, for more ideas with my sets from Gina K Designs, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching.